Talk to us a little bit more about ready-made. Reminds me of
Yeah.
fashion, bespoke versus off the shelf.
For me, it's a myth. It's kind of right fit is going to be the future. We're trying to talk to as many clients as possible, and I want to talk to the youth about that as well, to open their mind to it, so that when we're encouraging our clients to think differently, it's not like a waste of time because the next generation or people changing careers, they're not interested. You kind of need two things to go alongside each other. You need the client to buy into this idea that you don't need a 10 out of 10 engineer. You need a 7 out of 10 engineer with a bit of positive behavior trajectories. I think currently, yeah, it's chasing perfect hires is probably failing technical teams. I think the traditional ready-made candidate model, fully qualified, experienced, compliant, usually immediately available, it's unsustainable in technical industries because in many of these roles that we're talking about, the technical side of things specifically, I think we're seeing a bit of a generational cliff edge. Sectors like nuclear, rail, utilities, engineering, high percentage of skilled professionals are nearing retirement, whereas the younger generations are coming through and they haven't been exposed to these careers. So they're not aware of getting a job in the water industry. They're now looking at jobs that some of our parents wouldn't have heard of, like virtual fashion designers or influencers, sustainability analysts, and prompt engineers. So traditional hiring for the ready-made technical roles has become very kind of transactional and reactive, and that just obviously pushes up the costs and increases the time to hire, doesn't it?
So from say a water company's
Mhm.
point of view, what am I looking for? And there will be a certain degree of horses for courses. Some roles, some situations may be suitable for ready-made, just the
Yeah.
way we as individuals create our wardrobe. Okay, not all of us are lucky enough to have tailored items, but we often wish we were, because it's not easy to go out and find exactly what you're looking for that fits exactly your body type. And it is a bit like that, I think, when it comes to recruitment. In which situations should they think ready-made, and in which situations it will be advisable for them to gravitate towards tailor-made? And it is, again, taking the fashion analogy, some items are you will want to spend your money on because
Yeah.
they're going to be longer lasting, they're going to have more impact. And some items you may think, okay, a white vest, a white t-shirt, yes, some people will be connoisseurs, but a white t-shirt is a white t-shirt I could get from anywhere. Or
Yeah.
you could agree, disagree, but tell us your views.
One thing I will always say when I'm talking to people around kind of training up more of a kind of right fit behavioral model is that it doesn't work in isolation for us to just bring in all hires via this route where it's diverse, upskill. It's simply it would be unrealistic. So I think there is always going to be a need for that experience. There's always going to be a need for that ready-made talent. We do have it in certain industries in the critical infrastructure where the experience levels suggest that it is much harder to upskill in a realistic time frame. One thing I always try to maybe probably encourage less is when our clients maybe have a short-term need. They have a project which is, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. I am less inclined to promote the kind of right fit skilled model because I want to see a long-term future for this person. We're talking to people who want to build a new career in this industry and potentially with this client. So bringing them in and saying, "I'll give you a 6 months gig," sometimes that'll work out just fine because they will come in and prove themselves. But often at the end of it is what it is. It's a 6 month conversation. And then they are then in a position where they're then searching for a new job in a brand new industry that they've kind of jumped from one industry or one career path into it. So yeah, I would say the ready is more for the shorter term gigs, the really more experienced gigs, the ones where you just cannot unfortunately replace. Someone might have the best behaviors in the world, but it's very hard to replace the kind of 5, 10 years experience in certain fields that is justified. And that's where we are for now. I think there's a future conversation to be had around that because they can still buy the talent. It's still there. It's more expensive, and we're giving them a solution as to why they don't need to buy it 100% of the time, but it's still just about there. In 10, 15, 20 years, maybe that'll be less easy to obtain because that retirement cliff has kind of pushed back 15 years, and we're now in a position where actually, you know what, that minimal level where they've had that risk analysis, we might need to look at it. And that's where we might need to start thinking more about things like apprenticeships, where we can then start ticking that box around getting that 2, 3 year commitment around training and getting someone fully skilled.
Okay, that was very actually good to get your view on, because now one of the things, if I were to put that into a formula, I will say first variable there is the length of the project. The second variable is the level of expertise needed um, to complete that project. Is there a third element? Is
Culturally, you have businesses which potentially not the best diversity because of the types of people that are qualifying. Hiring managers need to really buy into this. They almost need to become allies of the peer groups we're talking about here, whether it's a gender deficiency, whether it's ethnic minorities, whether it's youth. They need to understand that there's a core message that their business is trying to help here. They're trying to get more of a certain person into the business. But at a hiring manager level, you have a person that has the operational pressures of this project being missed and delayed and risk and safety. And it's about going, how do we get that person on board? Because if we do all these great things and put these projects into these businesses and create a brilliant talent pool of people, and all our wording's well written to be diverse and we attract via the right channels, and we're gonna have a lot of people who we've convinced that this is a great opportunity for them, but they're not getting past the offer stage because they'll open up their email, they'll click attachment, they'll see CV, and they'll read it and they'll go, but they've not worked here, or they're from a completely different industry. It's just that little bit of reluctance which is stopping the industry from really accelerating out. They're the people that we really need to get on board. Get them side by side, and let's mold this together.
the hiring managers are really they're key,
They are.
they're linchpin. Is there a rule of thumb that you would recommend, for instance, for any hiring manager between ready-made and uh, tailor-made,
Yeah.
that emphasizes fit? Is there like an 80-20 rule? Should it be looked at on a case-by-case basis, and sometimes it's fully suitable, or some roles will be more, maybe roles that are very hard to find, more
Yeah.
suitable for a tailor-made model?
I don't think so. In the past, I would say train to deploy ups has been used potentially for probably less risky type roles. I don't project management, business analysts, data analysts, transformation, some digital roles. That's where deploy has been adequately used in the past, and that's what's become the go-to. Is bring a graduate in, bring them in for 2 years, they do a job and they move on, and that's kind of the acceptance of how it works. It's done it in a cost-effective manner, which is always seen as good. I personally think no. I think it's a constantly changing demographic, to be honest, because I think this, if you have a skill short role, and you need 10 people, for example, I would never encourage you to bring 10 people from a brand new industry or background or trainer. If you asked me to push on it, I would say maybe 6 and 4 and 7 and 3 in terms of experience versus non-experienced. That's kind of where I would typically lie in terms of embedding new resources into teams. But it really does apply industry to industry. I think that will definitely dilute over the next 5 to 10 years as those skills we talked about. 2030, 85% of jobs in the market are going to be jobs that do not exist today. So we're going to need to be agile and ready to adapt. And there is going to be people, the teams are going to have to sit down with their people teams and their HR teams, and they're going to need to look at job descriptions and skills and essential requirements versus desirable and go, we really need to get these essentials reduced and these desirables increased. And in that way, the more conversations like that are happening where they're looking at their skills matrix management, the better it is, where we can sit down and go, look, does that person really need 5 years experience? No. Okay, great. We've already opened it out to 20% more people. It's constantly moving plates, I would say.
Constantly evolving. And what it's signaling to me is you need to also think about that team element. It's not just individuals, but how they operate in a team. And in that 7 to 3, 6 to 4, the composition of that team and the
Yeah,
skills that you bring into that team, especially if it's a new role heavy, it's a brand new, one of the 85% of brand new roles that are coming into an organization,
yeah,
then you want a mixture
you
of
do.
backgrounds as well as skills that they're bringing
You
on.
do, and it's I think it's two pronged as well. It's yes for the business and bringing people in that can hit the ground running and not kind of dropping productivity, but also it works. And I try and encourage my clients to sort of think like they're very surprised when they bring people in from different industries. Let's just take rail for example, that's never worked on a train before, but they've maybe worked on tanks or they've worked on buses or whatever it may be. it's almost like it's very surprising to them when this person hits the ground running and actually brings in new ideas to the rail industry. That's the bit I love to see the most, is the influence of someone coming from a more diverse background or a different background, and the positive influence they have when they're inserted into a team in terms of how they work and how they behave. It's a little bit of like a little bit of chemistry, but I do like to see the end result on those ones.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
No props.
Another amazing session.